The following video was sponsored by the Greek American Heritage Society of Philadelphia, preserving and promoting our community's history.
My name is Peter Patukas. I was born in a small, remote mountainous village in the south central part of Greece, and I was born on December 23rd, 1933.
Tell us the name of the village and a little bit more.
The village was named Homori, Homori. We don't know how that came about, but it's very remote. The village at the time that I was growing up there had no electricity, no running water, no kind of roads. We had paths. As a matter of fact, we had no wheeled vehicles because there were the only means of transportation were mules. And if you were lucky enough to have a mule, you were in good shape. But unfortunately, my family did not have a mule. We had to depend on other families in order to have any kind of transportation. The village at that time was pretty active. We had close to 200 to 300, maybe a little more number of people living in the village. And the houses were very active. The means of livelihood was just agricultural. Everybody grew their own vegetables, their own, in order to survive. We had meat twice a year. We had a roasted pig for Christmas and a lamb at Easter, and that was about it, except for chickens. We had chickens, we had goats, we had sheep. That was everybody was self-sufficient at that time in the village. Now the village is almost abandoned. In the wintertime, there are probably one family, maybe two, that live there, but the rest are either in Athens or other places, and also away in America, Australia, Germany. Now, in the summertime, people come back to the village just like a reunion. And as a matter of fact, we have every year around Panagias, we have something called a damoma, which all the people come around. We can have, sometimes we have 400 people there for a meal and entertainment, dancing, band, and so forth. But in the wintertime, it's almost abandoned. So, but we keep our houses active. Everybody keeps their house in good shape, so when they go back, they have some place to stay.
Can we talk about your family's journey arriving and immigrating to America, and could you give us a time frame of how things took place?
Sure. My brother, Thomas, my sister, Aphrodite, we call Ita, and I came to America in 1947. We started out in 1946 when my father, let me go back a little bit and tell you that during the time of 1938, my father left the village. My father had been going in, since he was about 19 to 20 years old, back and forth to America. In 1921, he came back and got married. Then he kept going back and forth, came back, built a house, got married, had children. Every 3 or 4 years, he would come back to Greece after being in America, making some money, working, and then he would leave again, come back to America, make some money, and come back to the village and do the same. My father left in 1938, right before the war. Then the war started. We were in occupation at that time by the Germans and the Italians. My mother, unfortunately, died of tuberculosis, TB, in 1941 at the age of 45. I was only 7 years old when she died. My father was not anywhere around because he had gone to America. The war had started. He couldn't, we had no communication whatsoever because there were no way of communicating. We tried with Red Cross and always got a dead end. So we never knew whether he was alive or dead, and he never knew how we were doing. Unfortunately, my mother died in 1941. We didn't hear from my father until 1945. So for 4 years, he had no idea that my mother died. In any event, when he did connect, he sent for us to come to America. And in 1946, in December 6th, we left Greece from Piraeus and went to Italy. We went to Italy to Genoa, where another ship, we had a smaller ship from Greece, another large ship called Katoomba from Australia was being converted from a merchant ship to a passenger ship. So when we got there, the ship was not ready. So for a week, we were able to sleep in the ship, but we couldn't stay because they were working. So we had to go out into Genoa and try to take care of ourselves. Well, we knew Italian. We didn't have any friends. We found a friend that knew Italian and Greek, and we said, we're hungry. We want to get something to eat. Because in the morning, at 6, 7 o'clock, we had to leave the ship and go. We're not come back till at night. So he said, I know a place here that is inexpensive because we had no money, very little. And so he said, I'll take you. He took us to the restaurant. We ordered. The cheapest thing that we could find was soup. So they brought us the soup. The only thing I knew about soup was avolemino soup. They brought us something that looked like different. So I said, what is this? He said, that's vegetable soup. I said, oh, I just don't know whether I can eat it. But, necessity, I ate it. And we survived for a week on soup, once a day. Come back to the ship. When the ship was ready to come back, we met a gentleman and his wife who had gone to Greece to get married and was returning to the States. His name is John Maros. This gentleman and his wife actually saved us because we were in third class tickets, and sometimes we were in steerage, just not beds, just a chair. But this gentleman said, listen, you guys are not going to survive like that. So my sister and I, who were the younger ones, he said, you come with us in our cabin. He had a cabin because he had been in the States and he was a little better off. So he said to my sister, you sleep with my wife and I'll sleep with Nonda. My name is Epaminondas in Greek. And they had bunk beds. Can you imagine sleeping, 2 people in the bunk bed above and 1 bunk bed below? The family was a lifesaver for us. I regret that I cannot say enough about them, and I have not followed up. They have passed, of course, now. But in any event, we finally did make it after a very stormy crossing. We started out December 6th, got to America January 9th, 34 days to cross the Atlantic. When we got to the United States, of course, everybody was outside looking for the Statue of Liberty. The ship was shifting to one side because everybody was on one side of the ship. We got there, but we did not go through Ellis Island. We went through Hoboken for some reason. So we landed overnight at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. We had to leave the ship. So we left the ship, got on dock, and they had a big wall. And everybody went and stood. They had letters on the wall, A, B, C, D. And everybody stood under the name, their last name. There was a letter. Our letter was P for Patukas. So we went and stood there and waited for my father to come. In the meantime, we had communicated with my father at that time with telegrams and so forth, told him exactly when we were going to be there, and to call the ship office to find out what time we were going to be there. Well, we waited and waited and waited. Everybody had left the dock except this family, the Morrow's family that was helping us, and we were there. He said, we can't stay here any longer. We have to leave. But my father's not here. He said, we'll work with it. You know, we don't know what happened. So he took us to Grand Central Station. We got on the train. He sent a telegram to my father's restaurant in Coatesville. That's where we settled. And to come to the train station and pick us up. Well, we got on the train, went to the train station. We stopped. Mr. Morrow's and we both, all the three of us, three children and Mr. Morrow's and his wife got off, waited there at the platform. Nobody came. The train had to leave, so Mr. Morrow says, I'm sorry, but I have to leave because the train is leaving. So I'm hoping that somebody comes to get you. Well, he left. We thought again we were abandoned. First we thought we were abandoned in New York or in Hoboken. And then we thought we were abandoned in Coatesville. So, but shortly thereafter, someone came up to us. We knew no English whatsoever, not even yes or no, with a note in Greek saying, go with this man. So we said, okay. So we went with this man. Turns out he was the husband of one of the waitresses at the restaurant. He knew no Greek. He took us, but he looked at us a little funny because we really were ragamuffins. So he didn't want to take us in the front of through the front entrance of the restaurant. He took us through the back entrance so we don't embarrass the restaurant owners. We sat in the back booth. They gave us some ice cream, and shortly thereafter, my father calls and says, where are the kids? They said, the kids are here, but where are you? He said, I'm on my way back because I went there and there was a miscommunication. They told me that the children would get out at 9 o'clock, but they got out at 6. So in any event, he did talk to my father on the phone, and then he came shortly thereafter. I remember only a little bit of that reunion. I hadn't seen my father for almost 10 years. I was 4 years old when he left, and now I was 13. So 9 years without knowing whether he was alive or dead. So we said, it really must be him. So in any event, that was the adventure coming across the sea. as I said, we settled in Coatesville, where my father had a restaurant. And we started school that late that year of September. We came in January. We started in September, knowing no English. Started out, and I was almost 14 years old at that time. Started in the third grade because there was a Greek lady and a Greek girl in third grade that knew Greek and English. So that was it. But well, we started school shortly after fifth grade. I developed TB, tuberculosis of the lungs. Mainly, I know that I got it from my mother because my mother had died of it and we had contact. So it's a very contagious disease. And I missed 2.5 years of school with that. I went to home for 6 months with no real therapy. At that time, there wasn't much therapy. Then I went to the sanatorium for another 6 months. And when I was released from the sanatorium, I went home for about a month, and then I got some problem with kidney, and I had to have my kidney removed. So I've been since age 16 with one kidney. But it's worked out well. I have had no problems. Apparently that kidney was in good shape.
Tell us the name of the restaurant, who owned it, where it was first.
Okay. The restaurant was in the middle of Coatesville. It was called the Famous Restaurant. My father was the owner. And it was a general restaurant, not a Greek restaurant. It was an American old family type restaurant. And it was well known, very many regular customers at that time. So we worked there, all the family worked there. My father worked there, my brother worked there, I worked there, my sister worked there. So that's how we survived. After all my school years, I went to school, to college in Franklin and Marshall and Lancaster. Graduated pre-med, high up in my class, and then was admitted to a medical school, Hahnemann Medical School, Medical College in Philadelphia. And there I met my wife, Phyllis. She was a student nurse, and I was a medical student. So that's natural. We got together. She was not Greek, which created a major problem later on with both my family and her family, because my family said, "You're marrying a Kseni," and her family said, "Where did you get this foreigner? You know, well, he's a foreigner." They were all-American family. Anyway, we did, shortly after we both graduated. I graduated in 1962. Then I had my internship, and 1963 I started my practice. And in my practice in Coatesville, my wife was my entire staff. We had no money. As a matter of fact, we had so little money. My wife had to buy the wedding rings. I didn't have any money at all. She had worked for a year, so she had a little bit of money. But anyway, we got married, started practice. The practice grew very quickly. And to give you an idea, the office visit was $3. House calls were $5 at that time, 1963, 64. I became a member of the medical staff at the Coatesville Hospital, became the chief of staff there shortly after. Then I joined the Chester County Medical Society, became the president of the Chester County Medical Society thereafter. The practice, as I said, had grown quite well. Thereafter, I, at some point, I practiced for 25 years for private practice. Then the private practice became very active, and I had to take on 3 doctor partners. Well, that worked out well. At that point, though, after 25 years, I was getting a little tired. There came an opportunity where they asked me to become the medical director at the local steel factory, Lucan's Steel Company, which was one of the largest steel producers in the world at that time. So I was the medical director there for another 10 years, and after that I retired. My wife and I have 2 children, a boy and a girl, Constantina and Dimitri. And with Constantina, we have 2 grandchildren, Rebecca and Eric. So we're very, very fortunate. We're doing very, very well.
So let's move forward a little bit. Let's talk about your association with St. Sophia's Greek Orthodox Church and the community, your Hellenism. Let's go into that for a minute or two. Tell me a little bit about your faith and your association with this church.
In 1996, I had just retired, and some people that I knew, I was associated with St. Sophia, but I was not a regular there because I was in practice and very busy. But 1996, Harry Papadakis and Dr. Zavitsanos came to me and said, we need some new blood on the parish council. Would you be willing to serve on the parish council? I said, certainly. I came here in 1996, and I've been here ever since. After 23 years on the parish council and being president a few years, I retired from the parish council. But in the meantime, we were, through the effort of many friends and members of the church, the active members of the church, we started thinking about building the real church, because we were having services in the hall, which we had built earlier. So with the help and leadership of Father Peter Thornburg and many of the other members, we worked, and I was very involved with the building of this church, not only through planning, building, and fundraising. My job was primarily fundraising. And I'm proud to say that I was successful in raising quite a lot, maybe a quarter of the money that it cost to build this church. The church cost about $5.5 million. I'm proud to say that we're in pretty good shape now financially, and our mortgage is below $500,000 now. So we've done very well. Wonderful church, wonderful people, very friendly parish. As you probably know, you've been here many times.
Let's just go into a couple final questions. Hellenism, how you've tried to preserve it, how you've tried to continue to practice the aspects of your faith and your culture. Could you give us a minute on that, and then we'll go into a final wrap-up?
Sure. The Hellenism is very important to me, and the culture is very important. The religion is very important. I was one of the founding members of the AHEPA chapter in Chester County, AHEPA chapter, and very active again with fundraising for that. We give scholarships. There's a picture here that shows that we had given a scholarship to I think 4 or 5 children, and every year we give scholarships, and that keeps the children involved with Hellenism and with the Greek community. We have held dances and all kinds of different ways of trying to keep the Greek going. My philosophy essentially has been, and in my profession you can see it, to help other people. That's been my life's journey. Always helping, whether it's a church, whether it's an organization. I've been president of the local YMCA and so forth. But my real philosophy comes down to the biblical verse of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This is my true philosophy. And I've shown that in the way that I've helped other people, other organizations, and the Greek community. And I have enjoyed the journey tremendously, although sometimes it was tough. But you know, what doesn't kill you gives you strength.
Peter Patukas, thank you so much for talking with us today.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
For more information about sponsoring or viewing the interview series, visit the Greek American Heritage Society of Philadelphia online at gahsp.org.